Oh hey, virtual friend. Long time no see. Coming in for a snack after a long day's work? Don't worry. I just finished stocking up on some Debbie cakes and keep it on down low, but I found a secret supplier for cereal straws. This dude in the black market, he apparently remakes old snacks and drinks. So if there's one you miss, leave a note and maybe it'll pop up on my shelf next week. Oh, that's probably him now. I'll be right back.
What are you buying?
Take a moment to say your farewells to family and friends.
Wow, we've never seen results this impressive before.
When I was younger, my dad and I always used to go on road trips to visit his family in New York. Normally, visits to my Uncle Joe went like this: New York style pizza, X-Files, then computer games until I passed out. He was the first one to show me Quake. The fast-paced combat was so cool. I loved the thrill of rockets whizzing by and the constant flood of monsters. I mean, I had Doom back on my computer at the house, but there was something about Quake that was so much more intense. I couldn't wait to jump back in. This time though, things were different. I ran upstairs to his computer, jumped in his huge leather chair, but before I could fall in the war zone of Quake, he stopped me and said, "Take a look at what I've been working on." He grabbed what looked to be a blank floppy disk off the desk and punched it in. There was a blue tint to everything, and it took a while to boot up. But then the name came up, QuickTime. As soon as I opened the first door, I was greeted by a fury of enemies, dead on the spot. One shot would kill you, regardless of how small the damage looked to be. It was an odd feeling. I mean, I was bound to die a lot, but I just clicked enter over and over again. I finally beat the level and my time popped up. It was 1:45. I mean, I was so excited to show him. He chuckled and then he pointed to the leaderboard. The record was 16 seconds flat. There was something about the experience that was just so addicting, but I couldn't put my finger on it at the time. 2 years ago was a tough time. I was let go from my job, COVID crushed any sense of adventure, and I was itching for anything nostalgic. I finished some of the games on my backlog, replayed some classics, but I wanted something fresh, something fast and replayable. Risk of Rain 2 held my attention for a while, but once I completed a run or died, I just felt exhausted. One fateful weekend, Strafe popped up in my recommended queue. It was dirt cheap, even before the Steam sale. Gold edition, whatever that meant. I searched through YouTube reviews, but they seemed to just label it as a mediocre take on the formula. I didn't care what the review said. It was old school, cheesy, fast, and honestly, that's really all that mattered. Developed by Pixel Titans and published by Devolver Digital, Strafe is described as bleeding edge graphics and gameplay for 1996. The genre is now normally described as Quake-like shooters. Normally, levels are made to be speedran and mastered, but in Strafe's case, the fast gameplay is molded with procedurally generated maps, separated into 4 stages. The zones pull from a set of rooms and then are arranged randomly. You'll still use access cards, find fuses, or kill all enemies to progress, but your overall experience may vary. If you die, the upgrades acquired will be lost, and the stages will be randomized again. You can fix teleporters that allow you to unlock later stages, but this isn't a great option, but we'll get to that later. The story in Strafe is bare bones. You get a few cheesy 90s themed cutscenes and a short tutorial, and then you're off on your way. The story from what I gathered is this. You're a scout for the Icarus. Your job is to find valuable materials and scrap and bring it back to the Icarus. Apparently, it's an overpopulated job, and they send you to the edge of the galaxy to make ends meet. On your way back to the Icarus, you discover that you can't contact them for some reason. You grab a gun, teleport in to investigate. This is all the backstory we know, but I'll clue you in later for potential spoilers and my thoughts. You can grab one of 3 main upgradable weapons. Your options consist of a machine gun, shotgun, or railgun. The machine gun feels the weakest of the 3. The accuracy cone spreads out quickly, and the damage fall off is harsh. The shotgun is okay. It's exactly what you expect from old school shooter. The railgun is an accurate one-shot for weaker enemies, but its low rate of fire is tough to get used to. I normally go with the railgun since the potential upgrades later fix the firing rate. They each have a secondary firing mode, but honestly, I rarely end up using them. You hop into the teleporter, and the soothing Minecraft-esque music you've been serenaded by changes to the hellish tunes while you see blood in the walls and a wrench bashed in the skull of a fellow scrapper. Bonus for you. If you don't grab one of the 3 weapons at the start, you can grab the wrench instead. The first level is where this game can break your experience. The movement is already fast, but if you played old school shooters like Quake or even mastered Titanfall 2, you can bunny hop to fly even faster. Bunny hopping, for those who don't know, is using the momentum of jumping slightly left then right to propel you forward. It may seem like nonsense for those who haven't experienced it, so let's break down a few methods and equations. It comes down to this. When you move left or right in a video game, your velocity is slightly adjusted to ensure your speed isn't slowed down. It sounds like a no-brainer, but it's easy to manipulate. Quake and other similar games use a wish gear x velocity equation. Wish gear means the wish direction. If the player only runs forward and doesn't change direction, they'll be capped at the max speed. In this case, the direction and velocity are evened out. When you change direction while moving, the velocity is accelerated to keep the speed heightened, then falls back down to the developer's intended max speed once the direction and velocity equal out. The change appears to be non-existent to the naked eye. If you move forward in an angle, left to right and back left again, your velocity will, in turn, be slightly higher than normal. You'll be able to move at a faster speed for a small window. We call this zigzagging. You'll need to constantly focus on shifting left to right to take advantage of the small window. Turning quickly while moving will cause the velocity to be even higher since it has to keep up with the desired direction. It's okay if you're confused. I'll have a link for all tutorials I used. Jumping heightens the velocity even more since you have to worry about the friction with the ground hindering your speed. Using the zigzag method in air will cover more distance than normal since your velocity is maintained for that jump. Think of moving your character in the shape of an S mid-jump. Once you land, you'll need to immediately repeat the process. This is due to the 1 second delay before the velocity has a chance to fall back down to normal. Once you practice this method, you'll be flying faster than before. You'll be able to escape enemies and clear gaps without ever taking a hit. Welcome to the world of bunny hopping, or as some call it, strafing. Kind of odd to have a tutorial mid-review, right? Well, in the world of Strafe, you always want to be moving. Standing still is a guaranteed death sentence, especially since health and ammo are scarce. The problems with the first level stem from small corridors and the mazes. You'll feel claustrophobic in long hallways, and enemies will sprint your location from the quietest echo of a trigger pool. The area is full of dead ends, and the closed spaces leave little room to dodge. The elevators and trapdoors only elevate the frustration, as you can't prepare for every hidden enemy. I play House of the Dead every time I go to my local arcade. I memorized all the level layouts and enemy placements. I can normally complete a solo playthrough with maybe a dozen or so tokens. There are a handful of cheap attacks each level that are designed to empty your pockets. Think of quick turns with enemies waiting to strike, or bogus enemies just falling from the ceiling. They're frustrating the first few times, but once you begin to memorize the layouts, you expect them. You can't prepare for the enemies in Strafe because the enemy numbers, positions, in the already procedurally generated rooms are random. There may be an enemy standing at the bottom of the elevator, or a trapdoor that activates as soon as you enter a hallway leading to nothing. Vent monsters can create orange toxic goo over a bridge, already surrounded by green toxic goo. The other annoyance of the monsters are the lack of sound cues. Most of the melee enemies will sneak up on you with little to no noise. The procedurally generated headaches wouldn't be so bad if the ammo and health economy were forgiving. You'll gather different weapons as you go, but ammo is scarce. They also disappear between levels. There are vending machines that can dispense ammo and shields, but you'll be wasting scrap that could be better used for the occasional shop. Buying one ammo pack mid-mission can mean you pass through the next item shop with no upgrades. There are health boxes around, but there's maybe 5 packs to a box, and in total provide 10 to 20 health. That's it. The procedurally generated maps can be great for replayability, but I've often found myself lost and backtracking constantly, only to realize I've missed something plain in sight. There isn't a map, and the key items aren't highlighted or pinged once you see them. I've also grabbed key items without knowing since there's no icon on screen. I've had bugs where doors are stuck, or the scanner for a head just doesn't work. My other annoyance stems from the upgrades. You may come across a dancing robot in your travels that can upgrade your chosen weapon from the start of the game. The railgun can be modified to shoot out saw blades, or the shotgun can lob grenades instead of a buckshot. This sounds great on paper, but the robot only provides one random upgrade. So one minute you could be loving your nail gun, only if re-nerfed into the machine gun with high recoil and little accuracy. You can change your gun back, but only from the ammo and shield machine. It also changes the gun back to its original form. You may have also seen a scared monster with a mask on. If you kill all enemies around him, he'll offer either a health pack or a random upgrade. He normally stands in the corner, but he's also really easy to kill. I've accidentally killed him maybe a majority of my playthroughs, to be honest. The other part of the RNG is the store vendor you come across. He only accepts money. You can turn in scrap to receive money using a scrap box. You'll obtain scrap by defeating enemies, shooting out of loot boxes, or picking up randomly in your travels. He only offers 4 upgrades. One of them will always be a teleporter piece. The other 3 are random. Killing him does not mean you get all the items. Instead, it means the barriers will open up between you and the auto turrets and you will be decimated instantly. So, remember how I mentioned the exchange box? Well, only some shops have one. Some items are really expensive. One run he could sell boots so they walk through the orange queue unscathed, the ability to double jump, or a flying bot that shoots enemies for you. Sadly, some perks are far more useful than others. As far as the items go, I haven't noticed any bugs. Well, -1. The flying bot is supposed to follow you, but when I went in the subway car, he didn't, or maybe he got stuck. I could have sworn something was killing the monsters in the next stage, but when I looked around, he was nowhere to be seen. By now, you may have noticed the gameplay that things are not bug-free in the land of Strafe. I've encountered my fair share, but most aren't run-ending. The most frequent I've gotten is my main gun will turn yellow on pickup or an upgrade. I've also flat out lost my weapon. The worst is when you get stuck in the geometry. I was so close to getting this green card, but sadly, I couldn't move. I tried everything, tried to blast myself out the corner, but nothing worked. One run, I didn't know if I died to an enemy or if I was simply just stuck in a wall. My character screamed and then the screen just turned red. But honestly, these are far and few between, but they do happen. You're probably wondering why I'm talking about a game with so many downsides, but this game has a lot going for it. For starters, the music. Even if you choose not to give this game a go, the soundtrack is amazing. And the best part, it's on Spotify and YouTube. I definitely cannot recommend it enough. I like to think of Strafe like Risk of Rain 2. As long as I have a gun upgrade I like, or a useful vendor upgrade, I can feel confident in my run. The game isn't long by any means. You can walk away from a 45-minute playthrough feeling accomplished. The other fun part of Strafe is unlocking new playthrough options on your ship. You can choose a D&D leveling experience, which provides buffs with each level, have a rocket launcher with infinite ammo, or you can even make it to where everything dies in one shot, including you. Think of them like skulls in Halo. They can add funny modifiers, or make your experience a lot harder. So this brings me back to my childhood question. What made QuickTime, Quake, and now Strafe so fulfilling? It's simple, because I'm challenged, and once the game clicks, I feel a sense of rewardment and personal progression most games these days just don't offer. Starting a challenging game like Strafe feels like Neo, trapped in the subway as Mr. Smith calmly states, "Mr. Anderson." The phone is shot, there's no escape, you can only push forward. You land some punches, but the shots still keep coming. You're hanging on by grit and survival alone. You somehow make it through, but just enough to escape. Later on in the movie, Neo is shot, flatlined, but somehow comes to. He rises up again and states, "No." The bullets fire, but something feels different. He can see them in a way that no one else has. Punches come again, but this time he doesn't even have to look at them. He sees them before they even come close. The same feeling pops up when I test my strength in Aim Lab, Dark Souls, or even games like Tekken. You can beat the level, sure, but is it enough? You want to master it. You want to learn intermediate and harder mechanics like bunny hopping and rocket jumping. Suddenly, the levels feel like a racetrack, and the enemies are just other racers, left in your dust. Sure, the first few levels punish you, but they're there for a reason. They're there to test you. This brings me on to my favorite part of the game, the story. Spoilers incoming. So, from the tutorial cutscenes, we learn a few things. We're part of the Icarus crew. We have our own small ship. Our job is to bring them resources and materials for, well, we don't know what exactly. The other gray area is we're traveling to the edge of the galaxy, since the core system is oversaturated with other scrappers. The instructor states some odd things, to say the least. Humanity knows nothing about this sector. No scrapper has ever returned. She also states that we'd be fine, which I assume is to relieve the scrapper of some form of anxiety, or heck, maybe we're just expendable. I'm also speculating that the Icarus is relative to our location, since we can teleport to it. The planet that the Icarus crashes on appears to be uninhabited, minus the monsters of Black Canyon. This would mean that the Icarus is nearby and multiple scrappers either make trips to the same planet or on excursions to local planets by themselves. The Burb and Athena seem to be hidden and have been settled in for a period of time. We can deduce this by the infrastructure, subway system, and the gun-toting inhabitants we come across. The same creatures we battle against in the starting level and Black Canyon also appear in test tubes at the Athena facility. Better observing them shows a progression of life. So maybe they're created here, or maybe they're altered here. So from what I've gathered, the experiments done by the Athena Corporation make it onto the Icarus. The teleporter is then damaged, the Icarus breaks apart, and crash lands into the Black Canyon. This is settled for sure, but now it's time to speculate. I think a fellow scrapper flies to the planet and stumbles across the hidden base for the Athena Corporation. Since the Black Canyon has wildlife and creatures there, I'm assuming Athena has been experimenting on them and creating modified test subjects. Maybe they're using the orange goo to modify soldiers as well, since we come across abnormally large guards in the facility later on. While we're away somewhere else, the scrapper is found and killed. Since it's outside of any jurisdiction, Athena deploys the test subjects onto the Icarus using the teleporter. The monsters destroy the teleporter once they arrive, so it can only be one way. This would also explain why no monsters hijacked our ship. The Icarus is damaged and crashes into Black Canyon. Survivors use drop pods to escape, but are killed by the wildlife below. The controlled large soldiers protect the scientists in the facility since we don't see them anywhere else. Icarus's fate is now unknown to the player. As we fly back from our excursion, now in range, we can't locate the Icarus. We notice the teleporter is still active, and we grab a gun for safety. As soon as we teleport there, we see the horrific state, but now we're unable to return. Our only way out is to battle the monsters in front of us. We survive through the crash ship, venture through the Black Canyon, blow apart the residents of the burbs, and finally, destroy Athena facility's power source, causing a meltdown. Scientists now notice our ship in teleporting distance and try to escape. We find them scared and hiding inside, but after everything we just went through, we kill them on sight. All that's left to do now is breathe and fly home. It seems plausible, but there's no lore pages, no NPCs willing to communicate with us, no hidden clues like the cake is a lie or would you kindly, so that's all I have to go off of. The other difficulty with discovering the plot is I found one thread discussing this story, and it was just two people arguing. The Reddit page is mostly people complaining about the bugs over the years, or questions like, whatever happened to the dev team? If you have any other ideas, or I'm painfully off, definitely let me know. I'd love to see what other people's speculations and notes are. It's like watching the 1982 version of The Thing with friends. As soon as the credits roll, you want to see how other people perceive the little details and actions. Who attacked first? Who picked up the keys? Some questions may be easy to dig into, but since Strafe is complete and there aren't any updates or published plans for a sequel, we only have our imagination. I believe Strafe has a solid foundation, and it's worth the price tag. I would like to see some changes if they ever announce a sequel. The first change is definitely more lives, or maybe an option to keep upgrades between levels. Currently, if you use a teleporter to go to later levels, you start out completely fresh. I don't recommend it one bit. The procedurally generated maps, random upgrades, and few bugs can take me out of a good experience. This game isn't the FPS Dark Souls by any means, but occasionally I get a game over screen by something completely out of my control. I would also love to either see perks or characters to choose from at the start, similar to Risk of Rain 2. Maybe an engineer with a turret, or a strictly melee character. The only variable are the upgrades the vendor has, but that's no solid experimentation. I would love to see the option for co-op. This would mean that the maps would probably need to be larger in scale, but since the levels are already procedurally generated, I don't think this would be tough. This could also provide revives, so if you die in a level, but your friend makes it, you just start at the next level. We could expand our adventures as Scrapper, crash landing on a new planet after trying to make it home. The first levels could be open landscapes, filled with aggressive wildlife. Then we could discover large ruins and temples. Inside could be ancient technology and parts to repair a ship. It could be guarded by soldiers and boss battles. The dungeon could provide people to rescue and play as, or potential Easter eggs and combat modifiers for future runs. The final addition I'd be interested in is wall running. Since other fast-paced FPS mechanics are used, making more open-ended maps with inclines could be a lot of fun. I definitely would love a sequel with the vibe of Tribes. Gosh, I miss that game. Overall, I mostly just wanted to discuss an underrated, entertaining game I love. The only people that probably know about this are the ones who played it or have seen it on sale and are wondering what the hell it is. I'm fine with that though. I've enjoyed my time with Strafe, and I just love any excuse to talk about it. It's a fun and complete experience, which is more than most games that come out these days. It reminded me of the fun days of playing Quake on the MS-DOS, and it brought a fun challenge to the table. So whether you're just listening to the soundtrack or giving it a go on Steam, I hope our little talk helped broaden your horizon for a fun, fast-paced shooter. Enjoy the Debbie Cakes, and make sure you give Mr. Catsby a pet before you go. I'll see you next time, Virtual Friend.